Hello, all. Welcome to one more session of Management Principles and Applications. And today we are starting with our new unit, and that is planning. In the planning, the first part is we define our objectives. That's the first term given in our syllabus. So let's go ahead and find out what objectives are. So, what are objectives? Objectives, according to McFarlane, are the goals, aims, or purposes that organizations wish to achieve over varying periods of time. So, over a period of time, what all goals or aims or purposes the organization is going to achieve. So, you can see it here and observe here that objectives are actually kind of goals. Later in our presentation, we would be observing that there is a slight difference between goals and objectives, but they can be used interchangeably as well. In the words of Terry, a managerial objective is the intended goal which prescribes definite scope and suggests direction to efforts of a manager. So, again, it talks about the intended goals and its scope. So, what are the features of objectives? Every organization has objectives, because if you do not have any purpose, then there is for what will you exist? So, has every organization has objectives? Rather, it is started to achieve certain objectives. All the members of an organization channelize their energies to achieve these stated goals. So you remember vision and mission of the organization, and then that is broken into various objectives. Then you quantify them in certain goals, and those goals have then minute details and minute objectives which have to be immediate objectives which have to be achieved. The objectives of a business organization may be broad as well as specific. So you can see this objective is a very wide term. The objectives can be broad as well as they are specific. These may be set for the whole organization or different segments of it. The objectives may be long term or for short term periods. The overall objectives of the organization are supported by the sub objectives. Now we can take one example, that the objective of earning a certain percentage of profit in a particular year will be achievable only if objectives of manufacturing, marketing, finance departments support it. So all these departments will have their own objectives, but there is a master objective, that the earning a certain percentage of profit in that particular year. Then objectives have a hierarchy. At organizational level, broad objectives are fixed by the top level management. The broad objectives are specified at departmental level, and then they are derived for different sections. Various objectives at different levels try to achieve organizational objectives. So they are very varied and wide in nature as well. An organization tries to fulfill the needs and aspirations of society. The organizational objectives should have social sanctions, since these are social units. The aspirations of society should be reflected from the business objectives. Now, business objectives may change as per the environmental changes or change in the social needs. You cannot keep pursuing one objective which you've been pursuing, from decades, because the environment is changes, the social needs are changing, and hence business objectives also keeps on changing. The present objectives may have to be changed as per the new situations. The objective of earning profits has of late been associated with the social responsibility of business. Similarly, new objectives may be added or old objectives may be modified or changed. So when the companies were thinking of good percentages of profit after COVID-19, they are struggling for existence or even to break even. So the objectives have suddenly changed because of the environmental changes. All organizational objectives are interrelated. The achievement of main objectives will require the achievement of subordinate objectives also. So we'll start from achieving these subordinate objectives as well. It's not that organization has 5 objectives and they are mutually exclusive. They all are interrelated. The non-achievement of small objectives will also mean the non-achievement of main objectives. So even the tiniest of objectives are very, very necessary for the achievement of the overall objectives. So all the objectives are interrelated and they cannot be taken up independently. Another important characteristic of objectives is their multiplicity. There may be a number of objectives for which a concern may strive to achieve at the same time. So there can be 6, 7, 8 objectives which organization would thrive to achieve. The major objectives may also be more. At every hierarchical level too, the objectives may be many. Different areas of business have their own objectives. Management should try to achieve all the objectives efficiently and effectively. Next is that the objectives should be based on practical situations. They should also take into account the philosophy and thinking of the management. So the objectives basically should be comprehensive. The objectives should be realistic so that they may be converted into actual performance. You cannot keep an objective that so this year we are earning 20% profits. Let us take our profit margin to 50%. There has to be some real standing before this objective. That yes, how we will achieve it is another question, but would we be able to achieve it in the going conditions is a moot point, and you need to be realistic about it. Unrealistic objectives do more harm than good. Why? Because they discourage the employees rather than encouraging them. So nobody wants their employees to be demotivated, because demotivated employees will not be able to perform as good as they can. So for their potential to be tapped, you have to give them realistic objectives. Classification of objectives. The first are primary objectives. These are the objectives for which a company has been started. Every business aims to earn more and more profits out of its working. Primary objectives are related to the company and not to the individuals. Earning of profits out of providing goods and services to the customers is the primary objective of a company. The goods and services are provided as per the requirements of the customers. So you have to match the customers' expectations. Earning profits through customer satisfaction helps in earning goodwill and regular clientele. The production of goods and services as per determined targets will be achieved through individual goals of employees in the organization. So all these primary objectives are generally the profit motive or the wealth maximization. So these are the primary objectives which an organization strives to achieve. Secondary objectives. These objectives help in achieving the primary objectives. The targets are identified and efforts are made to increase efficiency and economy in the performance of work. Now, supporting the profit maximization, what would be the other objectives which would be supporting that very objective? Would be secondary objectives. The goals dealing with analysis, advice, and interpretation provide support to goals directed by primary objectives. Secondary objectives, like primary objectives, are impersonal in nature, so they are for the organization and not for the individuals. The primary goal of earning profits through providing goods and services will be achieved if there is a plan to add new products in the market at regular intervals. So if you will keep up with the market, you will keep earning profits. So the introduction of new products can be a secondary objective to profit maximization objective. The goal of adding new products will be secondary goal, which will help in achieving the primary objective. Third are individual objectives. Now these are at the individual level. These are the objectives which individual members in an organization try to achieve on daily, weekly, monthly or yearly basis. So these are the objectives given to the individuals. These objectives are achievable as subordinate to primary and secondary goals. Most of the individual objectives are economic, psychological or non-financial rewards, which an individual tries to achieve by using resources of time, skill and effort. An individual tries to satisfy his needs and desires by working in an organization. In order to motivate individuals for raising their performance, organization offer varied incentives. So individual objectives are given to achieve primary and secondary goals. So like we have taken the profit maximization as our primary goal. The secondary goal was introduction of new product. Now this is the innovation department and they have been given this goal, and let us say there are two people in the innovation department. So one is busy in the research and preliminary idea making, and the other task is to develop a model out of it. So these can be individual objectives. Then social objectives. These are the goals of an organization towards society. These include the obligations required by the community, government agencies, etc. These also include goals intended to further social, physical and cultural improvement of the society. Social obligations of business has become essential these days. So like systems theory we did, so organization is a subsystem of environmental system. It has got or a social system. So it draws so much from it that it is for being a part of it, that there has to be a consistent giving and taking from that system. So business has to produce goods and services by taking into consideration health requirements of people. These are the expectations that business should also spend a part of its profit for the welfare of the community. So here comes the corporate governance and social responsibility of the business. So every business has certain social responsibility which it has to relieve in order to show that they are part of a bigger subsystem, a bigger social system. Hierarchy of objectives. Objectives always form a hierarchy ranging from broad aim to specific individual objectives, like we have seen, from primary to secondary and then to specific individual objectives. At the top of it is the main goal or the primary goal. The organization has to see its responsibility towards society. We've talked about it as social goals, and then towards itself. The organization is required to contribute to the welfare of the society by providing goods and quality services at reasonable cost. The main purpose of the business is to provide a specific level of services or a proper type of goods. The overall objectives of the organization are specified at the top level management. So we see here the hierarchy of objectives. And what is that? So we have the top level management, social purpose, economic purpose would be seen by the top level management, and the mission, overall organization's objectives, all these are part of top level management. Then specific overall objectives or key areas like marketing or HR or finance. So these are division objectives. And then lower level management having department and unit objectives, individual objectives. So these are primary objectives, these are secondary objectives, and these are individual objectives. And this all has to be in all these objectives have to be fulfilled in a social environment. So these are the hierarchy of objectives. So there is top down and bottom up. There are two approaches. Let us see what they are. So there is some controversy whether the objectives should be fixed at the top down or bottoms up approach. In the top down approach, upper level managers set objectives for the subordinates, while in the bottoms up approach, subordinates initiate the setting of objectives of their positions and present them to their superiors. The proponents of the top down approach are of the view that overall objectives of the organization should be set at the CEO level or top level of management. It will provide a proper synchronization of objectives of different areas and individuals. So, top down management, where CEO or the top level management would be setting certain objectives, and everybody else would derive objectives accordingly, and this would be leading to proper synchronization of objectives as well as individuals. But on the other hand, the supporters of bottoms up approach, they argue that top management needs to have information from lower levels in the form of objectives. So now you take information from the lower levels, that what they can achieve in realistic sense. Since subordinates fix their own goals, they will be motivated and committed to their performance. Like we've done Auchi's theories there. It may not be advisable to rely entirely on one approach though, because both the approaches should be used wisely for better results. So it can be a mix of top down and bottoms up approach. In a practical situation, such decisions are linked to the factors such as the size of the organization culture, the leadership style of the executive, and the urgency of the plan. If it is an urgent plan, then top down is better, that you do this, you do that. If the leadership style is democratic, then bottoms up approach would be there. If the culture is such that people are lethargic or they do not want to do work, then top down approach. If they are self motivated, then bottoms up approach. If it is a very large organization, it is better to have top down approach, but if it is a small organization, they can come up with the bottoms up approach. So these are the various factors on which approach to be selected would depend. Now, let us come to this difference between goals and objectives. So, goals and objectives provide the foundation for the measurement. Goals are outcome statements that define what an organization is trying to accomplish, both programmatically and organizationally. Goals are usually a collection of related programs, a reflection of major actions of the organization, and provide rallying points for managers. Now, for example, Walmart might state a financial goal of growing its revenue 20% per year, or have a goal of growing the international parts of its empire. Trying to think of each goal as a large umbrella with several spokes coming out from the center. The umbrella itself is the goal. So you have an umbrella, it has got spokes. The umbrella says that we'll have a revenue of 20% per year. But in contrast to goals, objectives are precise, time-based, measurable actions that support the completion of goal. So what is the basic difference? Objectives typically must be related directly to the goal, be clear, concise, and understandable, be stated in terms of results, begin with an action verb, what will lead to this, specify a date for accomplishment, and be measurable. So going back to our Walmart example, in support of the company's 20% revenue growth goal, one objective might be to open 20 new stores in the next 6 months. So you can see the specified date, they are measurable, 20 stores, with an action verb, open. It is stating in terms of the results. It is very clear, concise, and understandable. And it directly relates to the goal of 20% revenue growth. Without specific objectives, the general goal could not be accomplished. Just as an umbrella cannot be put up or down without the spokes, goals and objectives go hand in hand. And they become less useful when they are unrealistic or ignored. For instance, if our university has set goals and objectives related to class sizes but is unable to ever achieve them, then their effectiveness as a management tool is significantly decreased. So in an umbrella, if an umbrella is a goal, then those particular spokes are its objectives. That's the basic relationship or difference between goals and objectives. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll do more of objectives next time.